Hello. The title of this video is Materialism and Trust, Addendum. Materialism and Trust, Addendum. Now, this video is an addendum to my previous video entitled Materialism and Trust. Materialism and Trust. So if you want to get as much as you can out of this one, you definitely should first go see my previous video, Materialism and Trust. Okay. In my previous video, Materialism and Trust, I show that materialism undermines one's self-respect and one's respect for others. And by doing that, it also undermines and causes the decline of the general level of trust among people in a society. So, in this addendum to my previous video, Materialism and Trust, I want to talk about another particular thing which has disappeared with trust, and that is the tacit assumption, the silent assumption of a good will and a good faith of the other with whom you engage in a discussion or a debate. Now, it isn't difficult to notice that many people just can't take criticism, however justified or tactful or objective or matter of fact, any of these adjectives it may be. It's very hard for them to take criticism or a hard talk. Hear a few tough things and so forth. Now, why is that? Why is that? Have we all become so weak? I don't know. It's is it that one considers himself to always know best, and criticism, a hard talk, oh wow, it can traumatize one, right? It can cause trauma. It's just bad, really bad. Well, you see, okay, it's not easy to take criticism, never has been, a hard talk, so forth. But we all know that we should. No, I hope so. We all should know, most of us anyway, that we err in life, that we may go astray, that we may hold certain views, have certain convictions, and so on, that in fact are false, right? Everybody makes mistakes, they like to say. Especially when defending oneself. Well, I'm just a human being, you know. We all make mistakes. Sorry. So, it's never been easy to take criticism or hard talk. But it is, it's gotten to a point these days that it's sort of it's becoming bad manners to ever criticize, you know, give a hard talk, something like that. Especially among peers. But that's beside the point. The point is, any controversy, a controversy, is now generally being considered a personal attack. Why? Because of the lack of trust in the goodwill and the good faith of the other person doing the criticism or the hard talk, and so on. The lack of trust in the other person that he does so, if not exactly to help you, then at least to sincerely express his feelings or opinions about the matter in a sincere effort to find out the truth of the matter. This sort of trust, level of trust, in what motivates the other person when he criticizes or gets a bit tough with you or gives a hard talk and so forth, that lack of, that lack of that level of trust causes one to an almost knee-jerk reaction believe that the other person, whenever he turns to criticism or hard talk, this is a few tough things and so forth, that he must do so because of, because he has an agenda, or he's your enemy. He dislikes you. Ugh. Whoa, he dislikes me. I must hate him too. It's debates, discussions these days have, for the most part, been reduced to, there are two things basically. One is the inability or unwillingness to actually listen to the other. It's simply, in most cases, it's just not there. And the other thing is that they overflow with ad hominem attacks. Ad hominem meaning attacking the person. Contrasted with ad rem, from Latin, which is attacking the matter under discussion. See, difference. Attacking the person, attacking the subject. Not the same thing. Not one and the same thing, is it? Right? And, well, when you see a discussion, a debate these days, on television or whatever, any medium, public debate, talking heads, and so forth, it's essentially the two are fighting it out, just like boxers do. It's sort of become. Of course, there are opponents and so on, and it's to an extent it is natural that one is trying to win over the other. But what I'm talking about here is it's a question of balance and magnitude. It used to be a long time ago that you were trying to win in a debate over your opponent. You're trying to win a debate by having a better, stronger, more cogent, more convincing arguments, factual arguments, that is arguing about facts, reality, so on. And you try to refrain from ad hominem attacks, or to keep them at a necessary minimum, because otherwise it made you look weak in your arguments. I don't have enough strong arguments. I cannot convince. I cannot win the debate by presenting strong, convincing, cogent arguments, factual arguments. And so I have to turn to attacking the person and their character, and doubting his or her motivations, and so on. And in more enlightened, or say more civilized times, this was generally considered a sign of weakness. And if one got on a slippery slope of of engaging too much in personal attacks, character attacks, so forth. His chances of winning were seriously decreased, actually. But nowadays it's quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite. What you hear most of the time is simply, it's like two, irritable children bickering over who has a bigger toy or something like that, I hate you, you're so bad, and you like this and that. Much more like this than a factual, responsible debate of two, mature individuals. Two adults having a serious debate. But without a certain level of trust in the goodwill and good faith of the other person in a discussion or a debate. A criticism is criticism in a positive sense. That is an effort to point to things that are not quite right and that should be corrected, should be done in a better way, improved. So criticism in this sense, in a simple sense, you point to things that shouldn't be, that you consider harmful, incorrect, wrong, so forth. And if you believe, it may be too strong a word, but if you have some preliminary level of trust that the other person criticizing is doing so in good faith and with a good will, unless he convinces you of the opposite, of course. That may be the case. But unless you have this level of trust, at the outset, sincere, objective criticism as an effort to help, as an effort to improve things, and so forth, is not quite possible. It's not quite possible, because it will always fall on a deaf ear. Why? Well, because the other person does not have that necessary level of trust at the beginning, that benefit of the doubt, whatever. And so any criticism is essentially perceived as either the one criticizing is only doing so to forward his own agenda, or he is doing so to undermine me, or he's simply, he's an idiot. He doesn't understand anything because I know best, and he knows nothing, or he is just trying to, hackle me, and he's an asshole. He's my enemy, and all these all these considerations, which no doubt are justified in certain cases, but with this general lack of trust, in that, the other may, mind you, just may be sincere or honest, that he may actually be trying to help, that he may care, let alone that he may do it selflessly, just out of, an effort to help things around in general, in society, and so on. So, with this, lack of the necessary level of trust in his goodwill and good faith at the beginning, whatever he may say, there is no fertile ground for it to fall on. It will never be taken seriously. It will never be taken in good faith. It will never be really listened to and heard. Mind you, I'm, when I resort to talking in absolutes like I just have, well, never, and so forth, as I have pointed out in some of my previous videos, we are talking trends here, and when you're talking a trend, whatever statement you make, even if it is in absolute terms, you always allow for exceptions and so forth. You're not saying that each and every individual on the entire planet acts so every day and every minute of his life. No, we're talking trends. That what is prevailing and a direction in which something is moving, is heading, and so forth. We're simply talking trends, statistical trends. So when you say there's a trend of young people not reading books, doesn't mean that no young person ever reads a book, right? Talking about trends. Meaning that more and more young people, a continually growing number of them, do not read books, or do not read books very often. That's just for clarification, okay? So, a state of civilization as I emphasized in my previous video, requires for its existence an increased general level of trust. And without occasional criticism or hard talk, which you're willing to take because you assume that the other is giving it with goodwill and in good faith, unless you have good reasons to believe, unless they convince you that the opposite is the truth. But without these things, nothing can really grow or correct itself. Now, you can see it on platforms such as Facebook and so on, that you cannot dislike anything. Well, I think I used to have that feature there at one time, that you could actually dislike a post or comment and so on. But you know we can. Because if if a guy dislikes your post or comment, well, you may feel hurt and offended, and it may cause you a trauma, and you may start gasping and trembling and collapse, and the ambulance needs to be called in. And all right. Well, you're supposed to just, it's preferable just to like everything, even if you don't really, or you don't care, and leave a supportive, even if insincere comment, because you believe you're building a false PR for yourself, and others will like you for it and respect you for it. Right. Well, in fact, they won't. Make no mistake about it. They won't. They are not that stupid. They are in the same game, and they know it just for what it is. An empty, hypocritical game. You see, I'm fascinated by this modern obsession with being liked by everybody. I don't want to be liked by everybody. I certainly don't want to be liked by people who I dislike. And you see, well, okay, you want to be liked by people, say, in an understandable effort to avoid controversy and confrontation, because these are unpleasant things. But it's gotten, out of proportion. It's way beyond anything remotely sensible these days. And if you cannot stand up for anything, how can others respect you? Truly respect you? Well, they can't. Because there is nothing there to respect. And if you can't respect the other person, it's really quite difficult to really like them. Believe you me. And so when you dislike something, disagree with it, you're just supposed to ignore it. Because you don't want to, offend somebody or hurt their feelings. And sure, I mean, you can go around and happily ignore many things in life. But, there are things, there are cases where you feel strongly that you want to offer a contrary point of view, or that criticism is in place. It's called for and needed for the sake of the other, or others, or society at large even. But the solution of the day is ignoring. Which amounts to nothing else but a lack of care and responsibility. And when you put this on a much broader basis, many great problems in society go ignored because one does not want to be controversial. One does not want to be controversial. And level the proper and much needed criticism or attempt to find out the truth, no matter what. But you see, people don't want to hear unpleasant or uncomfortable things these days, even if they may be true and important. Be positive. Be positive is the motto of the day. Right. I'm never quite sure what it means. Be positive. I mean, if you only had the positive pole, you'd never get any flow of electricity or electrical energy, to call it correctly, without the negative pole. So you get nothing. Nothingness. Be positive, right? Like what? Like dance and cheer and celebrate when your house is on fire and your children are burning inside? Oh, just be positive. Look the other way. The sky is blue there and everything's beautiful and, it's all fine. And the children are just warming up. And if criticism is leveled, if one speaks out, if truth is put out there, it, in most cases, it just does not gain sufficient support from the others because they lack the level of trust in the goodwill and good faith of the critic. So he is left all alone, a voice in the desert, a loony conspiracy theorist, perhaps. And everybody can be comfortable because there is no need to support a lunatic. Right? Well, apparently, no co-action, no cooperation leading to real results, especially when the odds are against you and there is danger involved, is possible without a necessary level of real trust. Thanks for watching.